Welcome to Big Girls Don't Cry. We are your hosts, Shan and Georgie, and we're just two friends figuring it out as we go. And we're so thrilled you're here with us today.
This podcast is all about getting real. We're talking the messy stuff, the magical stuff, and everything in between.
Because let's be honest, being human is incredibly tough sometimes. But when we share the messy bits, that's where the magic happens.
So grab your coffee, wine, or whatever fills your cup and come hang with us. We'll laugh, cry, overshare, and probably trip over our words as we stumble through life's beautifully messy moments. And I mean messy.
Messy.
Messy. Today's guest is Rhodie Lorenz, the coach who turned spinning classes into a powerhouse career, built a beloved boutique fitness empire, and then rebuilt herself when the world literally closed its doors. She's now a performance and mindset coach. She works with athletes and high performers to turn pressure into purpose and setbacks into forward motion. Her story weaves student debt, 3 young sons, rapid business expansion and success, and the gut punch of sudden business closure, and a fierce reinvention that followed. Expect raw and deeply human stories about community, loss, and the unglamorous work of getting back up, plus sharp mental performance tools you can use today. If you think resilience is only about toughness, Rhodie will make you rethink it. Vulnerability, ritual, and smarter habits done consistently are the real strength. Welcome to Big Girls Don't Cry. Rhodie, we're so glad you're here.
Wow, Georgie, what an intro, and I'm super excited about today's episode. Rhodie, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here with us today. To start, could you share a glimpse into your journey, perhaps also highlighting a moment when you recognized the need for a significant shift or reinvention, and what emotions were present for you in that space?
Well, thank you so much both for having me. My background is in education and fitness. I started off my career as a high school English teacher, and I ended up in fitness somewhat by accident. I had 2 young boys, and my husband was doing his cardiology and general medicine internship. And we were traveling around for his work, and I had left my teaching job. We moved to Boston from California, and I just found myself super secluded. I was staying at home. I had lost my identity a little bit, and I missed working and doing something outside of the home. And we didn't have means for childcare, so I was with my boys, who were wonderful, but relentlessly energetic, and I really felt like I needed something for myself, and I ended up getting certified to teach. It was called spinning at the time. It's now called indoor cycling, and it just led me on this path of community and meeting incredible people and being a part of something that felt really meaningful, because for many people who are dedicated to fitness, that hour of their day is really a highlight. And so to be able to spend that in that context with people and inspire people to continue to work hard. So I loved it. And then I ended up teaching more classes and then getting certified to teach Pilates. And I always thought I'd go back to teaching in the classroom, but I loved the flexibility with raising a family. And I ended up then in 2011, deciding to open my own studio, and I met 2 women in town, Amy Hockhauser and Debbie Katz, and we launched a studio, and it ended up being more successful than we could have imagined. And from 1 studio, we grew to 7 in about a decade. And unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we struggled through it with some of our studios staying open, some closing, and then ultimately in 2022, we ended up closing. It was a combination of the pandemic, but also just the landscape of fitness had gotten super competitive. And so anyway, so that was the journey. As far as the reinvention piece, I would say probably the 2 pivotal moments for me were motherhood and that transition, which I know a lot of women can relate to, whether you stay home, whether you work, what that next chapter looks like in terms of juggling having kids and a career. And then the second part was after Joyride closed. I had really dedicated so much of myself and my relationships and my passion and my sweat and my tears to it. And so one day we were open, and then the next day we closed, and it was just a huge blank slate for me to try to figure out.
Phenomenal. I mean, it really, really is a beautiful story of reinvention. Honestly, thank you so much. Hearing how you move from running thriving studios to rebuilding your work and identity really sets the scene for the rest of our conversation. Now we're going to flip the mood for a minute and get some quick instincts. Fun, sharp, and revealing. No long answers, please. Just the first thing that comes to mind.
Great, and I'm going to kick us off. Okay, so Rhodie, if you had to pick one power song from the Joyride playlist that perfectly sums up your journey from the fitness studio all the way to mindset coaching, what would it be and why?
So I have to say it is so hard to pick one song because there are so many on my playlists. But if I truly had to choose one, it would be the song Titanium by Sia. Yes. And the reason for that is that I heard it so many times at Joyride. I played it often. A lot of other instructors played it often. It's one of those songs that the lyrics are so inspiring about getting back up, rebuilding yourself, like fire away. I'm going to get back up and do this thing. And so I always loved playing that song because it always just struck an emotional chord with me, and you could dig a little deeper and turn the resistance up. So that song just brings back so many memories of that time for me, and I think everybody can relate to that experience of getting back up. And if anything, that's, I think, where so much strength is built. On a more personal level, even 2 years ago, I had a bad ski accident, and I ended up actually not being able to walk for 6 weeks, and it was a very long recovery. I had never had an experience like that before. And as a result, I have titanium in both of my legs.
Not funny, but
no, it is kind of funny after all of that, because I would have said this song prior to that experience anyway. But now when I'm teaching classes too, I tell people both figuratively and literally, I do have titanium and I am titanium. And so now it has multiple layers of meaning for me.
Oh my gosh.
It's a great song.
I absolutely love that song. Do you beep when you go through the airport?
I don't. Fortunately, I don't, because that would be an added nightmare in addition to the TSA travel situation. So fortunately, I don't. I go under the radar.
All right. What's one habit that's totally overrated for success?
I would say this hustle culture of 24/7, this expectation that we're supposed to work hard all the time, be accessible, respond to texts, respond to emails, respond to everything, and not sleep, neglect other things in our life, and just this lack of balance that is really encouraged by just constantly doing everything all at once.
I needed to hear that today.
Yeah.
It's,
the juggle.
Yeah, because we live by that, and we feel like that's productivity.
I know.
But it's, and it is in one sense, but the other sense is it's deeply unhealthy.
It is, and it will burn you out, and we have to nourish other parts of ourselves too.
Yeah. All right, and then lastly, the best piece of bad advice you've ever received.
I would say that it is probably never give up. I think sometimes we have to redirect things when they're not working, and there is this such a negative connotation with the word quitting or giving up, as if we are not trying hard enough, and oftentimes we're on a pursuit and it's not the right path for us, or it's stopped losing its joy or fulfillment, or we've outgrown it. And I think it's often very hard to both discern that and then be brave enough to step back and do something differently.
Thank you. As a performance coach, what is the one non-negotiable morning ritual that keeps you grounded, even when the world feels like it's closing its doors again?
For me, I'm big on rituals and routines. I think they help provide a lot of structure, and how we start our day has an influence on how the rest of the day goes. For me, it would be journaling, and I think I journal every morning for the most part when I can. And it's just a way for me to kind of download the thoughts that are in my head. And particularly when there's a lot going on, I think that our thoughts tend to swirl. And when we can get them down on paper, it both helps us get a little bit of distance from them, so we don't feel quite as fused and maybe emotional about it. And it also just helps me really organize my thoughts and my thinking. So I think to start the day with a little bit of clarity, a little bit of priority and intention. If I can write down and notice some of the things that are on my mind, then what's happening for the rest of the day, I can try to show up with a little bit more awareness and attention. about it. So.
Yeah.
And Rhodie, sorry, is that like a mind dump? You're just writing? Because I find it quite hard to journal. So is there any format to that? Because I always get like, what must I write?
Dear diary.
Yeah, I get so stuck with it. I'm like, this is stupid. Why am I writing this?
No, it's such a great question. And a couple of years ago, I started, I think it's from the book The Artist's Way, and she talks about just writing 2 pages every day. And even if you're like, I don't know what to write, just write, I don't know what to write. And you, I think, somehow start to let go of that self-conscious nature. And sometimes you are writing about kind of nothing, but I think the practice of just getting thoughts out and noticing what is coming up for you is in and of itself a practice. So I just kind of let my mind wander and see what comes.
Yeah. Okay. And I love the point about looking back and starting to possibly recognize patterns, because everything is about pattern recognition. And then you start to lean into the patterns that serve you, and you also start to let go and redirect the patterns that don't.
Exactly.
Mine is the snooze button. So I know in my journaling, if I just fold back the pages, like weeks and weeks, it's like, don't hit the snooze button. I hit the snooze button again. Don't hit the snooze button. At some point, I'm going to take action, but it's become a very obvious pattern for me.
At some point. The pattern recognition and awareness are the first steps, right?
Exactly. Work in progress. What one ritual that's underrated for mental fitness?
What comes to mind, at least in my experience and personally, is visualization. Until I started coaching, I was roughly aware of this tool, visualization, and I had heard that, athletes use it, but I've studied it more and I share it with my clients, and I think that it's an amazing psychological tool that if we can really vividly and viscerally imagine ourselves in a scenario that we want to accomplish or that we want to happen, that mental rehearsal in our mind, as if we're watching a movie of ourselves doing something hard, challenging, successfully, that it's a very powerful tool for enabling that to happen. So much of our subconscious beliefs we are unaware of. We have a lot of automatic responses to how we operate through the world. And it's almost planting a seed of, this is what I would like to happen. And psychologically, we often have to be able to see something before we can do it. And even if that's in our imagination, because the mind doesn't always know the difference between what is true and what is imagined. And if we get into that practice of really imagining ourselves doing something that we want to pursue, then it's a great way of making it happen.
What's a small, totally unglamorous win you've had recently that made you feel like a total powerhouse?
I love this question, and it also trips me up because the unglamorous win sounds a little like an oxymoron to me, because we want all of our wins to feel like a little glamorous with them. But I think that, anything small or big that feels like a win or a step in the right direction for us is a win. So one example of a win that happened recently was in one of my classes. I like to open my classes with either a story or some kind of message. I think that when we're going to be in movement, our minds are really primed to be open to a reflection and moving along with that. So recently I told a story it's a Buddhist story about the mud and the lotus, and it's basically about how the lotus grows in the mud, and it's because of the mud and those disadvantaged conditions that it actually blooms to be a beautiful flower. And so just how the obstacles are actually part of our whole journey, and because of them we gain our strength and our resilience and our beauty. And so after class, I was really moved by the passage, and I wanted to share it, and I had 4 or 5 people say, can you please share that with me? And so I love it when it resonates with other people and they want to pass it on to other family members or their friends, and kind of keep that as a reference as well.
I think we're going to have to share that. We're going to have to get that
I'll send it to you guys. It's great.
That's awesome.
All right. So, Rhodie, those were really great instincts. Maybe not so short, but we got a lot of insight there.
I didn't want to stop you. You were great and you were on a roll.
But we just want to dig a little bit deeper and get to know your story a little bit better. when you built a real community through your studios that you mentioned, when that community fractured, what was the single hardest psychological shift you had to make, and how did you manage that, like, actually day to day?
It was really challenging. I would say the single hardest part of losing my Joyride community was not being able to see the staff and the members and the instructors on a daily basis. So my favorite part of the studio was certainly the community that we had built, and the social part of going to work and teaching classes, training instructors, and just physically being with people and their energy really fueled me. And working in isolation and feeling adrift were extremely challenging to adapt to. It went from being in a very high energy in person to being at home and feeling really isolated. So I still connected with people. I would, call people for coffee, go for a walk, and it was a huge adjustment. But to this day, many of my closest friends are still from that community. So I'm super grateful for that.
For many big girls, and can I also add boys?
Yes.
For that matter, who are constantly told to be strong, there's an unspoken cost to always presenting a tough exterior, which I'm sure we've lived personally as well. Mm-hmm. What are some of the hidden tolls, not tools, but tolls you've observed, either in yourself or your clients, when vulnerability is suppressed?
Well, I would agree that ultimately our vulnerabilities are what connect us and make us human. And the expectation to be tough and strong is both unrealistic and it disconnects us because we're not being authentic about what's going on inside of us. And so I can speak from my own experience that when I started Joyride and we were building our first studio, I was terrified of what I had gotten myself into. I think I had thought about the outcome, but not all of the steps along the way and what it all would entail. So, I signed the lease, the operating agreement, I committed to investors. I tried my best to present a really strong self, like I've got this. But as the days marched on and I just felt like, oh my gosh, I have signed myself into something and this may not work out. And what is that going to look like? Mm-hmm. And I vividly remember one day, the studio was actually, we had construction workers in the location and they were starting to build the studio. And I was with one of my partners, Amy, and I just turned to her and I said, I'm so sorry, but I've changed my mind. And she was like, oh, we need to talk. Yeah. And so we stepped outside and I remember she put both of her hands on my shoulder and she looked me in the eye. And we were way too far into this for me to suggest backing out. So she kind of shook my shoulders a little bit and she said, I don't care what you have to do. Get on meds, go talk to somebody. She's like, we are doing this. People have signed on for this. Wow. And it was actually exactly what I needed because she was in on it with me. But I did end up along the way feeling this sense of fear and I just kept it in and then I completely lost it. And so we had that moment, and from then on, I was like, "Okay, we can do this. We can do this together."
Okay, so after that, you were fine. There was no other little wobble.
No,
Okay.
It was all scary, but you've made the commitment. You're on the train, and it's left the station. So let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
And maybe even for yourself, having that first challenge, getting through it.
Yes.
Perhaps when the next one came along, you could replay that story.
Yes.
It wasn't challenge, quit. It was challenge, resilience, work through. And now I know I can do that.
Exactly. And I also think that if you don't give yourself an out, you figure out a way.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yes. And then after building and then letting go of a tangible empire like Joyride, how has your personal definition of success fundamentally shifted? So what I mean is, how do you measure a life well lived? What metrics do you use, especially after such a profound reinvention?
This is such a good question, and one I am continuing to define and redefine. And while Joyride enjoyed immediate success after we opened, and we grew to 7 locations with just family and friends funding, after the pandemic and losing a lot of money, we made the difficult decision to close. And at first, it honestly felt like failing. Financially, we were not successful. And it was devastating to have to close the doors. But now that I have distance from it and I can reflect with that space in between, I have so many friendships that I gained, and I run into people every now and then who were part of our community who share stories about how meaningful it was and how special and the friends they made along the way. And I've just shifted my, I guess, perception of that success can be many different things. Obviously, if you have a business, the financial piece is a necessary part to stay in business and to be successful. So on that front, we had to close. But I also feel and have now redefined success for Joyride as the impact that our studio had on people's lives and the friendships that were gained. And I'm really proud of that.
Yeah. And thank you for that raw account. I feel, you may see that as a failure in some sort. For me, it's truly inspirational. And I think probably without that journey, you may not be the coach you are today. You sometimes have to live the stuff. It's not all in the textbook. It's not all in the theory. And the fact that you've lived through a great success story in terms of how you've impacted lives, even if the business folded thereafter, is a part of your journey. And I feel like just having experience in that has allowed you to probably show up in a way for your clients that you wouldn't have otherwise done.
No, I think that is very true. And so much of life is both the ups and the downs.
Yeah. The mud, right? The mud and the lotus. Yeah. Working with elite performers, where do you see the biggest blind spot in how athletes or high performers approach with regards to mental resilience?
I would say that it has to be a daily practice. I think too many people think that people have or do not have a strong, good, positive mindset, that you're kind of born with it or not. And actually, very parallel to your physical fitness, your mental fitness is a practice, and you have to do it with an equivalent level of investment, like lifting the weights, going to the gym, and doing those reps and exercises.
I've never thought of it like that, I must say. Mental fitness just doesn't feel like something that I have to work at.
Practice. I know, and I think most people don't, but if you train it or think about it like a skill, then it requires the same level of practice and repetitions to grow.
Literally build that muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally.
And Rhodie, as an expert in this field now, of, I think, the physical and the mental, you mentioned beforehand when you get a chance, in addition to your journaling, you have a daily practice. What is that?
Yeah, so I mean, journaling is something I do in the morning. I also do some form of meditation or mindfulness. And again, these are, a few minutes here and there. I don't have hours of routine. But I would say that those two things I'm pretty structured with, and doing reps of. For me, fitness, I'm fortunate that it's built into my job, but I do think that the movement part of it and exercise is just so important for our mental state as well. So those are the three main things that on a daily basis I really try to check that box too.
If you could distill your entire journey, right, from the highs of Joyride all the way down to the depths of rebuilding into one core message about resilience, what message would you leave for our listeners?
For me, it would be gratitude. I know it's a word that is used often and may mean different things at different times, but if you can find a way to be grateful for all the things, the good and the bad, and Joyride and other things in my life have also taught me this, but to treat them both as gifts and opportunities, because they truly are. And it's from the challenging things that force us to do something differently or dig deeper or change course, as well as the blessings that we have, just to be reminded of those. And I just think that gratitude is, again, a really important practice. And so doing that in a way on a regular basis to acknowledge just helps it grow.
I do that before bed.
Yeah.
The things I'm grateful for in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good way to go to bed, right? And let it sink in.
Yeah, otherwise I think of other things.
Yeah. Which you're less grateful for.
Which I'm not grateful for.
I also think when you're in a state of gratitude, like you've said, this is an overused term, possibly to its, to the max. But you displace fear. You displace regret. You displace, those self-limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves. They can't coexist at the same time.
Yeah. True.
In the thick of juggling student debt, 3 kids, and a growing business, what small routine or decision saved you more than you expected? I know we've touched on the 3 daily practices, but what I'm asking here is, what could some of our listeners try tomorrow by way of just a very small action that could help shift them into the right mindset?
I feel like in the midst of all of what I was juggling with my kids being little and running a business, and I was lucky to just, get the dinner on the table and the kids in the right carpool lane. But so I don't know that I had so many routines then, because they probably would have helped me. But I, like most people, felt like, oh, I don't have the time for this. But if there is one thing that people can do, I would say that it's some kind of movement. I mean, if you don't have a practice of walking or exercise classes or lifting weights or yoga or something, find something that your body can do and move, and it's just so important for our both our mindset as well as the health of our bodies too.
When I say to Shannon I'm having a bad day, she's like, get outside.
Yes,
get moving.
Go for a walk. I know.
She's very good at that.
It's the quickest way to shift your energy.
Yeah.
I think also just the sunlight, fresh air. And when you can do it in nature, it's like it has a 2 times effect or 10x effect.
Definitely.
All right, so talking about getting through the day and taking it step by step, our mission at Big Girls Don't Cry is to show that it's okay to feel, to cry, to be human. What is the one thing you want every listener right now to hear, for those who may also be facing their very own gut punch moment? What is one thing they should know about the power of their own tears?
I love that you guys are asking this question. For me, it's cathartic. I think that tears are good. And I don't know if that's because I was raised I have 2 sisters, so there were 3 girls, so tears were flowing. But they come in joy and they come in sorrow, and both indicate that something is meaningful and matters to you. So one thing that I talk a lot about in coaching is that our emotions are data, and that our body is constantly talking to us. And so releasing tears can help us to let go of unhelpful things and thoughts in our minds that our bodies are holding on to. And it's also a way to express what we're feeling inside and move through it. So I think it's really healthy and normal, and it's powerful. And, things that take our breath away and things that make us cry are things that really speak to our emotions. And so I think we should pay attention to those. Yeah, but I think normalizing just emotion is important.
I literally cry in every single movie I watch. I don't know what that says about me.
That's a good data point to mark. What's one phrase or reframe you want listeners to use in their heads when they feel like quitting? I feel like we've covered quitting and walking away and pivoting extensively today, but I feel like it's a really important one.
I agree. I think one thing that we can do is to tell ourselves, don't quit today. And if we can hold off, and I'll quit tomorrow, but today I can manage and handle what is right in front of me, from getting up in the morning to making my bed, to making my coffee, to packing the lunches, or whatever is involved. But it helps us see what's right in front of us and not the magnitude or the overwhelm of the task that may feel too big. Because oftentimes what happens is when we delay making a decision to quit, if we want to keep going with it, then the next morning feels fresh, and then we can tackle, again, what is right in front of us, rather than throwing it all out as well.
And Rhodie, I think you mentioned earlier that the one piece of bad advice was to never give up.
Yeah.
So how do we reconcile it against, when you should quit when you know when to quit?
I know.
How do we
it's so
pull those parallels together?
It is so hard. I mean, that is kind of the $1 million question, because I think that we are constantly juggling expectations of others, expectations of ourselves, alongside what we're feeling and thinking, and trying to listen to our own intuition and instincts. And it's really hard to parse those two things apart sometimes. I do work with some athletes who are uncertain about whether staying in the sport is the right decision for them. After all, they've invested so much, and maybe they're even in college, and how could they decide to quit now? But sometimes if your mental health is being compromised and that sport or whatever you're in isn't giving you the same joy or growth or community or the things that you loved about it, if your attitude is switching to dread and anxiety is playing a bigger role, then I think it's really worth considering. And I would also just recommend that people, reach out to a therapist or a coach or somebody who's impartial that could help them see it from a couple of different perspectives so that they could make as informed a decision as they can about whether it's right for them to quit or not. And certainly sometimes it is the best decision. We've outgrown something and it's time to start something new or to step on a new path.
It's almost like it's a feeling, not a knowing. It's about your intuition, your gut.
Yeah.
It's like we have everything we need is inside of us. It's about unlocking.
It is.
And tapping into that rather than overthinking. When we go into our head, it's often where we don't make the wisest decisions.
I know. We talk ourselves into something because logically this is what we are quote unquote supposed to do or should do.
The shoulds and musts.
It's tricky.
All right. Rhodie, if you could go back to the Rhodie who was just opening the first Joyride in 2011, what's one fun secret you'd tell her about the woman she's going to become?
I would say she's going to inspire others to invest in themselves and live a big, bold life. And the only way she's going to do this is by doing it herself first.
I love that.
Awesome. When you look ahead 5 years, what's the legacy of resilience you want to leave for the people you coach today?
This is a great question. I love it. I would say that they have developed the tools and unlocked a steadfast belief that they are capable of achieving their vision and overcoming obstacles that land in their way. As you just said, they have everything inside of them. So that's a coaching philosophy that we're not looking externally for all the answers. We're going to look internally. And I really want them to trust themselves. So I'm always here if they want to reach out and need a refresher or just a cheerleader, but I want them to feel like they have what they need.
Thank you. At the end of each episode, we ask our guests one final question. Could you please finish this in one short line, a word, or even a phrase that captures what resilience means to you? Big girls don't cry. They?
Big girls don't cry. They turn their breakdown into a breakthrough.
Love that. Rhodie, where can people find you? Website, socials, and the best way to work with you?
Sure. My website is my first and last name, rhodielorenz.com. And my social on Instagram is also at Rhodie Lorenz. And I work with teams. I do presentations on mental performance skills, and I also work one-on-one with athletes to help them develop their own toolkit and playbook so that when the stakes are high and the pressure's on, they have some tools that they've practiced and that we've put together for them.
Rhodie, thank you so much for your honesty, your tools, and for showing us what real resilience looks like. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Check the show notes for links to all things Rhodie and the resources that she mentioned.
Big girls don't cry. We feel, we reset, and we come back stronger. See you next time. Thanks for hanging out with us. We hope you found inspiration and connection in our conversation today. Remember, true strength lies in vulnerability and authenticity.
Join us next time as we continue to explore the messy, beautiful realities of being human. Crying is optional. Growth is mandatory.
Till next time.
On Big Girls Don't Cry.
Lulu, do you want to start again?
Yep.
A very good day in the Zodiac world.
Woo! Bring it on!